back to Nashville, that lovely city. Look at this story. COVID-19 emails from Nashville mayor's office show disturbing revelation. Uh-oh, what's the disturbing revelation? Was everyone going to die? No, the opposite, actually. Nobody was going to die. And that was just contrary to the official narrative of fear and panic. So the good news was covered up by the Democrat mayor. Did you really need me to tell you he was a Democrat? Here's the Twitter page for the mayor. He's wearing a mask. Here's a hint. If a politician is wearing a mask in their publicity photos, he's a leftist. Let me read a scoop from the local TV station there. The coronavirus cases on Lower Broadway, that's in Nashville, may have been so low that the mayor's office and the Metro Health Department decided to keep it secret. What? Emails between the mayor's senior advisor and the health department reveal only a partial picture, but what they reveal is disturbing. The discussion involved the low number of coronavirus cases emerging from bars and restaurants and how to handle that. And most disturbingly, how to keep it from the public. Can you believe that? Of course you can. Again, bars, music halls, that's what makes Nashville Nashville. At least I think so as a casual tourist there, but it's the livelihood of thousands of people too. Let me read from the story some more. On June 30th, contact tracing was given a small view of coronavirus clusters. Construction and nursing homes were found to be causing problems, with more than 1,000 cases traced to each category, but bars and restaurants reported just 22 cases. Leslie Waller from the health department asks, this isn't going to be publicly released, right? Just info for mayor's office. Correct, not for public consumption, writes senior advisor Benjamin Eagles. A month later, the health department was asked point blank about the rumor there are only 80 cases traced to bars and restaurants. Tennessee Lookout reporter Nate Rao asks, the figure you gave of more than 80 does lead to a natural question. If there have been over 20,000 positive cases of COVID-19 in Davidson, and only 80 or so are traced to restaurants and bars, doesn't that mean restaurants and bars aren't a very big problem? Health Department official Brian Todd asked 5 health department officials, please advise how you recommend I respond. Now, I don't need to tell you that 20,000 cases doesn't mean 20,000 people were sick. Many were probably asymptomatic, no symptoms. Some were probably false positive tests. But still, the number is the number, 20,000 of something. 20,000 cases, and only 80 cases were from restaurants and bars, and yet they shut down the restaurants and bars. And they deliberately hid the facts to justify their lockdown. They knew it was false. Here's the worst part here. My 2 cents, we have certainly refused to give counts per bar because those numbers are low per site. We could still release the total though, and then a response to the over 80 could be because that number is increasing all the time. We don't want to say a specific number. So they knew there was no problem with the restaurants and the bars. In fact, if I'm reading this right, those were probably the safest places in all of Nashville. There's about 5,000 restaurants in Nashville, 80 cases. That's it. Here's an idea. Take your grandma or grandpa out of a senior's home and just roll them into a Nashville restaurant. I mean, seniors' homes have been death traps, and these Nashville restaurants sound like sanctuaries. Say, do you think the public policy behind our lockdowns in Canada, or frankly anywhere else in America, are any less questionable? Here, watch this wonderful exchange with the British health minister on a talk radio show. They've got curfews over there now. They've got this bizarre rule of 6. You can't have more than 6 people together, even if you've got 3 kids and 2 parents, and the grandparents come over. As in, so you got 3 kids, plus mom and dad, so that's 5 people. And then grandma and grandpa come over. That would be 7, so one of them has to wait in the car and only one can visit. You think I'm kidding? You think I'm kidding? Well, I'm not kidding, but this rule is all made up. Here, there's no science to it. Listen to this exchange.
Not an epidemiologist. I don't have any medical background, but a lot of us are a little bit confused. Maybe you as Health Minister can explain to us that I didn't realise that viruses could both tell the time and count so well. Can you explain to me why 6 people sitting at a table together in a pub at 9:59 p.m. is perfectly safe? And 7 people sitting in a pub at a table at 10:01 p.m. means we're all going to die?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily characterise it as you did there, Julia, but I take your point. The issue being that what we've seen in, for example, Bolton and some other areas is that it's that nighttime economy. It's towards the end of the evening when people have had a bit to drink, that sometimes people aren't always as aware of the rules or forget the rules. And therefore, you can see groups starting to get together, starting to break the rule of six, starting to have that close contact. And it's one of the things that appears, and I say appears, to be a factor in driving up infection rates in those areas where you see large groups of people late at night who've enjoyed themselves perfectly reasonably with a drink or two, but who then sometimes don't follow the regulations.
He just made that up. I was certain of it. He just made that up. That rationale. Well, people get a bit drunk, so they have poor judgment at 10 p.m. He's like a kid being called on to answer a question in class about homework that he hadn't read, and he just makes it up to see if he can get by. That's amazing to me. How many people lost their jobs because of this cover-up in Nashville? Oh, but they're just the little people, don't worry, just the waiters and waitresses and cooks and busboys and dishwashers and I guess some musicians. Not the important people like the mask-wearing mayor and all the important people working for him and all the important people on these emails. How many businesses went broke? People who poured everything into their little restaurant or bar for years, maybe decades, and were just ended. How many because of a political trick? That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.